What is up, everyone? Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to go over how to draw script for a tattoo. Throughout our whole lives we've been writing words for school and writing things down, but it's definitely a big difference whenever you are going into drawing for a tattoo. Most people out there have terrible handwriting, just like I did. It took me a long time to kind of get used to drawing pretty in order to create a good tattoo. So I'm going to break down how I set everything up and kind of make a template for myself to make it easier to do all of the letters. And if it's your first time here, I'm Brandon from Tattooing 101, and make sure you are liking and subscribing down below. That way you can keep up to date on all of the new videos we come out with each week, tattoo related. So before we get into the drawing part, I want to explain a couple of things when it comes to script. So I am by no means a script artist. I do a ton of different style of tattoos, script being one. But there are artists out there that only do script, and that's what they do for a living. So obviously they're going to do things a little bit different than I do. So when it comes to doing script style tattoos, you have to think that there's a ton of different fonts that you could do out there. There are things like Gothic font, cursive, which is the main one that you're going to see, a traditional font, you'll see this in traditional style tattoos, and graffiti, which could be a lot of fun to draw as well. And the list goes on and on and on. There are a ton of different styles and a ton of different ways to do this. So doing your research and trying to figure out the best way to do it or to go with the tattoo that you're doing will help you out a ton. Another thing I'd like to touch base on would be make sure you are not just pulling fonts off Google and or places like the font, things like that, that'll auto generate them for you. Any tattoo artist and a lot of clients out there, there's a lot more knowledge involving tattooing, so they're going to see that right away and it'll be able to show that you're not drawing your own fonts. And that's going to make it hard to get new clients if they're checking out your portfolio, or if you are trying to get into a tattoo studio in the future. Any tattoo artist is going to clearly see that and wonder why you didn't just draw your fonts. So these are the reasons why I'm going to break down and explain how to do it. I'm also going to be doing another video on this on how to tattoo script. So my biggest question to you right now would be, what is the better option? Do you fill in your letters with your actual liner, or would you want to pull out a round shader to fill in those little areas? This is the question, so all you have to do is comment the answer down below that you believe it is. And that way in my next video when I actually tattoo script, I'll give the answer. That being said, let's get into how I draw my script. So when it comes to drawing script on an iPad, there are a couple of different brushes that'll help you out with this. So there's things like these that'll help you be able to do some sort of script. So this chiseled tip, you could go through and make flowing script like that. There are different ones for different things. So if you are first getting into tattooing script or drawing script, these will kind of help you out. So as always, I always like to start out with a red color. Sometimes I'll go from red to blue to my final black, but with this one we're just going to go red to our final design. So I had a client message the shop wanting a tattoo saying king, so K-I-N-G. So that's what we're going to do today. A couple of things you want to think about whenever you're drawing for a tattoo design would be the flow of the body, depending on where he's getting it. He is getting it on the wrist, so I don't have much room to work with, so we're just going to do a simple design. If you're trying to get flow for a tattoo that you're doing that you're just adding some letters or script to, you want to make sure that you are kind of getting a flow for the design. So say there's a dagger going through this and you're kind of making a banner or just going with the words. You want to make sure that you are creating a guideline in order to get a flow for the design and know where your actual letters are going to go. So with this, we are going to start out with a little bit of a flow as well. So it's going to be K-I-N-G, and sometimes I'll go up to the top and just write it up there so I know exactly what I'm doing. Then again, we'll do the top line, and then we'll go through and do the middle. So this is our guideline for doing script. Other styles will be different. If you're doing more all capital, then you just want to do the two lines because all of the letters are going to be the same size. But if you're doing a capital letter and lowercase, you're going to want to do this. All the lowercase letters are going to be underneath this line, and all the capital are going to be above this line, filling in the whole area. So now that we got our guideline down, we're going to bring the opacity down a little bit. And by all means, if you do not have an iPad, you can do this exact same stuff on paper. So we're going to start out with the K first. We're just going to get our guideline down. And the hardest thing to get used to is kind of drawing everything with flow to it. So instead of just going up and down, creating different shapes in order to create a really great script tattoo. So we're just going through here. Nothing has to be perfect. We're just getting our guidelines down. Then from here we could just keep the same flow and go through and get kind of the spacing right. Before you go into detail with everything, you want to make sure that your spacing's right so you don't spend a lot of time getting everything looking perfect and then your spacing's completely off and it looks super awkward. Now we can go through and thicken everything up. So with script, the rule of thumb that you want to try to stick with would be on your upward stroke, it's going to be a thin line. On your downward stroke, it's going to be thicker. So what I mean by that is this would be the thin line, you go downward stroke, thick line, thick line, and so on and so forth. And when it comes to the eyes, you could do different designs. So, you know, when it comes to an eye like this, you could do the star on top, you could do kind of like the flame. I like doing the flame, it looks really cool. Or just a simple dot. There's a ton of different things that you could do when it comes to doing a lowercase I that can be really fun. Okay, from here we're just going to clean some of the stuff up so we have a good basis to go by whenever we are making the design. So now that we have the flow and everything, we could make the opacity go down, and we do not need this guideline anymore. Now if you're working on pen and paper, you could go to your final piece of paper and put it up to a light box to do your final product right here. And I always like, whenever I'm working on my final product, working from the right to left. It's just easier for me. So I'll start over here and get all my final lines done. And we're just going to go through here and make everything really clean because we're going to use this for our stencil. Awesome, so now that we have the outline done for our design, what we're going to do is take that one away, and I want to explain a couple of things. So when it comes to doing script and things like that, there are a couple ways of shading. So you could either do the straight black, which I'm going to do with this one, or you could start from the bottom and kind of fade your way to up. So you'd start from the bottom and work your way up through the design, stopping about halfway with your gray wash. Doing it that way has a really nice effect to it, but this client wanted everything just straight black, so we're going to go through here and black in the areas. Awesome, so now this is our design. Now when it comes to tattooing things like this, there are a couple things that I do when it comes to adding extra things to script. What I mean by that is adding some gray wash around the script. It gives it this really nice look to it, and also fills an area in order for them to be able to get sleeves some days, or if you're going into a little area that they already have tattoos around them, it'll fill everything in and go with all the rest of the tattoos. So the way I do this would be I will get an actual shader, or if you're working on pen and paper, you could just go around and create kind of a line around everything and fade up from that. With the iPad, all I do is do some shading like this behind the design. And then all I got to do is go back with the eraser and just keep a consistent edge to it. You don't want one area having a super thick negative space and then the other areas having a really thin one. So just keep consistent with the way you're doing this and it'll turn out great. And there you go. Now you could do this with the whole design. I know that this tattoo is going on the wrist, so I'm not going to have any area underneath to be able to do shading because he doesn't want anything on his hands. But you could do this the whole way around and create a really nice looking tattoo when it comes to the shading. You know, it still looks good just with the writing, but you can tell adding a little bit of shading will change the whole look of the tattoo and just make it look that much better. And going above and beyond with your clients will help you gain more clientele and will help you get where you want to go in the future way faster. So that is how I draw for any script tattoo that I do. As always, if you like this content, make sure you are liking and subscribing down below. And also, if you like things like this and you are an aspiring tattoo artist or an apprentice, or just wanting to learn more, make sure you are signing up for our email list where we come out and send emails on more tattoo content. Thank you guys. I hope this video was able to help you out, and you have a wonderful day.